Hello and welcome to That Was the Woke That Was, the topical quiz show that gives you the opportunity to hear the wokest stories of the week. On my teams tonight is Connor Tomlinson and Anna McGovern. And, of course, the lovely Mahyar Tousi and the acceptable Lois Perry. But before we get on with the show, let's get a message from our sponsor. Take it away.
Introducing Mike and Kevin's Ice Cream for Snowflakes. Indulge in our deliciously sanctimonious flavors, such as Extinction Raspberryan, Cancel Culture and Cream, Cookie Double Warming, Non-Bineberry, Woka-Cola, Ginger Nut, and Vanilla. All made from our organic gender fluid. Mike and Kevin's Ice Cream for Snowflakes.
So this is to Connor and Anna. Right. Come on, focus. Right.
We can win.
Councils in England and Wales have been told to call people birthing parents instead of mums and dads.
That already happened with the NHS lot, didn't it?
I know the answer to this, and I was at Queen Mary, my university, and they were doing a conference, and it was about the theme of it was 50-50 Parliament, and all of them were debating on the panel saying, it's not mother, it's not father, it's birthing parent, because saying mother and father, it's deeply offensive.
I think we should be really inclusive and just start saying vessel.
Yes.
That'd be really inclusive. But that copper that talked to me, if you notice in that video, he keeps going, this person, they, them.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, all the College of Policing have sanitised the language. They just want to make you amorphous blob.
I just wonder whether they've all been on these training programmes.
Have,
And actually, you know, somebody said about political correctness that, in a sense, we're British, right? We like to be polite.
Yes.
But actually, it's become a case, it's become oppressive now. So it doesn't bother me. If you want to be a birthing parent, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a mother or father, you should be allowed to do that as well.
Appeals to manners are just a way of disarming us of our moral prohibitions. It's just a way of getting your guard down and then sneaking their new gender abolitionist ideology past it. It's ridiculous.
Of course, and in Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World, he talks about the fact that the babies are actually grown in test tubes and in laboratories, you know, and that we actually move completely away and people have sex, but it's not proper sex, and the exchange of fluids is completely wrong. You mustn't touch someone because it offends them. I know it offends you when I touch you, Andre, and I am sorry.
Well, actually, I was just thinking about that, Lois, because there is now a big move, and I don't know what I think of this, so I'm going to put it to you. But this whole idea of giving people the right to be parents, even if they're not married to a man or a woman, or they're not in a relationship, so artificial insemination. You
just need to go down the pub. You don't need to do artificial insemination.
And surrogacy. But are we destroying society by allowing that?
I think that if a child is loved, then that's the main thing. But if it's loved by two parents that have made the baby together, then that's even better.
To be fair, the problem with this whole debate is that whether it's when it comes to the gender stuff or when it comes to birthing parents or just giving out babies, they don't really care about that. Yeah, but that's not even what they care about. Their reality and their worldview is that you need to basically bring down and oppose every single aspect of any traditional Western society that we have.
Right,
so family values is one of them.
And I think it's starting, so I was going to say, it's starting at birth now, because I think a lot of parents, it's become a lot more common that they won't raise them as the gender they're born. Yeah. They'll raise them they'll give them like a non-binary name, so it could be a boy or a girl, so they can choose what gender they want to be.
Mind you, Anna, I've got a very good friend of mine who I grew up with, and he lived next door to a couple called Chris and Les, and as the years went on, they didn't know which was the man and which was the woman. And they felt after sort of living there for 25 years, they didn't feel able to ask.
Whichever one does the washing up is the woman. There you go.
No, literally, there was... No.
Have you met my son?
No, I'm not being funny. This was in Lancashire. There was one who was very definitely a man and one that was very definitely a woman, but they were called Chris and Les, and nobody knew which was which.
Oh, there you go.
To get back to your point about training courses, this is the really frustrating thing about going to that Conservative Party conference is the flagship events that Liz Truss showed up at were sponsored by Stonewall. Yeah. Stonewall are the reason
You're
the police...
joking?
No, Liz Truss showed up at the LGBT Conservatives Night 1, the Curry House, and they're sponsored by Stonewall.
Probably because they had good music and nice food.
Well, the end event had a drag queen there which was singing rather out of tune, and even Anna is a big fan of clubbing, went, do you want to go outside? This is rubbish.
Hang on, I'm not being funny, but when I went out clubbing, drag queens singing out of tune wasn't what the young things were doing. No, it was a few years ago.
Especially not at conservative events. Like, come on.
No,
so the fact that
not.
Stonewall are now even legitimising the government, which is led by a woman who supposedly defunded it way back when, just
Yeah,
shows
what's that
how
about?
ideology is strong-arming all of our institutions.
They are.
Okay, well,
yeah.
look, let's get back to the question, which was councils in England and Wales have been told to call people birthing parents rather than mums or dads. Is it true or false?
Oh, it's absolutely true.
It's correct.
Yeah.
It is absolutely
doesn't
true.
State of the country.
Shockingly.
Yeah.
So to Maya and Lois,
Yes.
the Great British Bake Off has been criticised for being culturally insensitive after Matt Lucas wore a sombrero for Mexican Week.
Oh, for God's
Wait,
sake.
well, firstly,
Luke-
Matt Lucas is still a thing. I had no idea.
Oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. I cried
Oh, no.
when they took Little Britain off the streaming services because I knew this was indicative of something evil and horrible because Little Britain was absolutely loved. And for them to take it off, I thought, right, OK, this is the beginning of the end.
But I thought the stupid thing about taking Little Britain off was it wasn't necessarily my favourite thing, but it was intended to push the boundaries at the time.
It offended everybody, which I hope we are. I really do. You know, but they could have just taken out the specific segments that were,
Lois,
the backing up.
Lois, I'm convinced that
go on.
literally you being alive offends the political left.
Oh, do you know what? That's the most beautiful thing
I know
you've
that's
ever
true.
said to me.
To be fair, on the point of the actual question, as some people know, my background is actually Persian. My family are Iranian. On behalf of the British Empire and the British civilization, I think we should be offended that Iranians wear suits and ties because that is also a Western thing.
appropriation.
Why should we kick off about a Mexican hat? And it was related to a theme, right? Allegedly.
Yeah.
Why should we not be attack the Asians?
By the way, I wanted to ask you, you've been talking about Iran. What's the update?
Yes, so
Pray tell.
without going with blind optimism, it's finally happening. This is the beginning of the end. This is the people's uprising, and it's not like the Arab Spring, which I do not call those things revolution. Those were
very, very
those were
organised.
non-military coups, basically.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
The regime are all over the place, and it has something to do with the fact that both Putin and the regime are distracted with other stuff because they usually used to help each other. And right now, there's no longer any appetite from the West because this regime was backed by CIA at the time, obviously in 1979. Now, the Westerners know that you can't do any sort of intervention because democracy is like too open now. They know if Biden says anything, he's going to be in trouble. But everybody knows that right now the Democrats and Biden are obsessed with the Iranian regime because of the deal and everything else with the nuclear deal. But people in Iran don't care. People in Iran are going out there. Women and school kids are leading this movement.
I'll tell you what I loved. I loved the teenage girls who were kind of in these burqas. They don't want to be in them.
Yeah.
Sort of shooing their teachers, literally.
Literally.
Because their behaviour supporting the regime.
It's brilliant. School kids
brave
are burning
girls.
schoolgirls are burning the headscarves and they're chanting woman, life, liberty, man, nation, prosperity.
Lovely.
And they're saying take your Islam and go. So like people in the West, like BBCs and CNNs,
what will
they're kicking
religion
off.
be, though?
Well, so that's the biggest misperception. A lot of people assume that the majority of 90% of the Iranians are Muslim. Less than 40% in Iran
What's
are
the
Muslim.
predominant religion?
So
Or
it's still-
agnostic?
No. So yeah, the majority are basically they say we are nothing, but in reality,
But it's good to have a faith, though, isn't it?
There are a chunk of Christians and Jews who
Oh,
can't
okay,
say
there's a-
they are
right, there's a
Christians and
mix.
Jews.
Okay.
But less than 40% are Muslim. But just because the regime are basically the Islamic Republic,
Right,
I mean,
okay.
it
But
represents-
you're talking about a cultural mix, right? Here's the thing that I don't understand. I don't understand the way people say that you can be culturally enriched by having lots of cultures from different places, and at the same time you can prohibit cultural appropriation because either
Yeah,
you wear the hat
you're in it or
or
you're
you
not.
don't wear
Yeah.
the hat.
Not only that, on the one hand they say bring in all the cultures, and on the other hand they say your own culture, be ashamed of it. That's the problem I have.
No, you're absolutely right. So you're ashamed of your own culture, but you're not allowed to pay tribute to anybody else's. It's just about a straitjacket. Everything is about a straitjacket.
It's to subdivide the majority of the population into little interest groups, stop us from talking to each other, stop us from integrating.
Divide and rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then create revolution that will just get rid of our usual peaceful way of life.
Yeah.
We shouldn't abide by it.
OK, so the question was, the Great British Bake Off has been criticised for being culturally insensitive after Matt Lucas wore a sombrero for Mexican Week.
It's so ridiculous it has to be true.
Yeah, it's a yes from us, Andre.
It's absolutely true. So both sides are doing OK. OK, so,
right.
I mean, I hope this next one's true, but I don't know. Anyway, to Connor and Anna.
Yeah.
a new dating app called The Right Stuff has been created for right-wing people who want to date singles who don't get offended by everything. Now, you two are in a couple.
Yes.
How easy is it to be a conservative couple these days?
It's pretty easy for us, actually, but I would say it's pretty difficult to instigate a relationship if you're looking for something long-term. Like, weirdly enough, we met at a Conservative Party conference a few drinks in. Actually, we have Maya to thank for that because you let her into the event when she didn't have a ticket. So cheers for that, mate. There you go.
Maya let her out the cage.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And the thing is, if a man chats you up in the first place, he's probably not awake. So that's a good indicator, isn't it?
And the main, a lot of the complaints about the app was people were saying it's plagued by like mainly gay men, like a lot of like men on there, and a lot of women who were like joining these apps. They couldn't find anyone, and the men were like, where are the women? When I'm on this app, all I see is men. Like, pretty much, there was not any women on there.
Why do people need apps? Why don't they just go out?
Yep, that's my point exactly. You're not going to meet someone long-lasting as a conservative if you're not in a political interest circle, in a business setting, in the church, something like that. If you're using an app, it's probably just for a cheap shot.
There's a bit of a problem here. If this app is supposed to be a British conservative app...
It's mainly American.
Okay, that makes sense, because I've been to Tory conferences. The British conservatives these days, especially young people, they also get offended with everything. They're not that resilient. Everyone's woke now.
Yeah, I know. You feel like giving them a slap.
I went to Tory conference and I was surrounded by like 6 or 7 young Tories, so-called conservatives. And 5 of them were advocating for nationalising railways and everything. I was like,
Tell them that they're at the wrong conference.
Poor old Daniel Granger for saying Birmingham was a dump. And then did you see, everyone was posting photos.
I saw
Birmingham isn't a dump. Here's this photo of that one place in Victoria Square, which if you walk past the fountain...
They would all say it behind the scenes.
It still smells like rotten eggs in that fountain bit anyway, because it isn't taken care of. And then the rest of the city looks like it's populated by concrete shoeboxes.
By the way, when that kid said that, I reacted by saying it differently. I said, places that are not Birmingham are not dumps.
I will say one thing in defence of Birmingham. The thing is, it is post-industrial. It's one of those places which has tried to reinvent itself. What worries me is you go to places up and down the country where you have these local councils that are just delighted, just revel in failure.
Well, I was forced for various reasons by a friend of mine to walk all over Birmingham, and actually there is some very, very attractive places. There are, but you wouldn't know that unless you want. You wouldn't know that unless you actually had a little explore.
The problem with Birmingham, let's be blunt, is these 1960s architects
all the way around the outside
who ripped the soul out of it with that bull ring.
It's the
but
roots.
the rest of it's fine.
A horrific bit, right? So it's near the Asian Quarter, Chinatown. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but there's a rainbow painted on the ground. In the middle, there's a black sphere with gold icons on it saying this is what the world would look like if the transatlantic slave trade was ended. And then all the streets are in Bangladesh, and it's just like this cultural vomit everywhere.
I just love the way you think that the language of Bangladesh is Bangladesh.
Well, I don't know.
You can't have a go at the ball ring though. They've got a selfridges.
Okay. So I think you know the answer to this. But is there a new app called The Right Stuff?
Yes, there
and
is.
it's probably going to be a failure.
Yeah.
I would certainly hope so. Anyway, the next question is to Maya and Lois.
Yep, go on.
Priti Patel has signed up for the next series of Dancing on Ice. Now, as you know, she's lost her job
I would
recently.
love to see that.
Wow, okay. That's actually hilarious. What I would love to see, because she needs to be punished for being a terrible Home Secretary, is she should go on something called Dancing on Small Boats on the English Channel. See if she will survive on a small boat on her own. Also, can you actually imagine her dancing?
I can't, because she's got a very small face and small hands and small wrists, but she's ever so large, isn't she?
Yeah, well, some rapper, like, wasn't it JME or something, just tweeted out an out-of-context photo of her sitting down, and everyone was going, why, all right, mate, rein it in a bit. Like, just because she's a little large on the bottom.
Norton, she gets away with being a massive, great big woman because she's got no double chin, she's got little hands. Yeah, so Priti Patel, you know, the game's up, we know you're fat.
I just love the fact that your principal criticism of her are the size of her wrists.
No, that's good. That's good. It's just the rest of it. I don't know. I'd like to see her bouncing about on Dancing on Ice, wouldn't you?
I'm a very tolerant person. I was even in favour of Ed Balls doing this Strictly and all that stuff, even though he's on the opposite side. And I'm not in favour of cancel culture, but Priti has been so disappointing that I want her to be socially cancelled. Do not go on that if it's actually happening, and I really hope that's not true.
No, I've got the saddest story of my life about ice skating.
Go on.
Me to tell you.
Go.
I was in love with a boy at school called Duncan McGovern. he didn't. He wasn't interested in me, and we went on this ice skating trip, and we were all 13 years old, and I couldn't ice skate. I went on the rink, and I fell over, right? And she was really skinny, and her skin was lovely. She had this bouncy blonde ponytail bouncing all over the place, and they skated hand in hand round the rink, right? Well, I sat there feeling like a great big fat horrible spotty peg that couldn't stand up.
I can tell you're over it.
With help, I have moved through it.
But I skated. But that's
Like an X Factor audition.
Have you?
but Lois, I skating was very popular with schools in the 1970s.
Oh, you're so hilarious. We're the same age, aren't we, Andre?
Oh.
How old are you?
43.
Oh, well, then you're older than me, you horrible chauvinist git.
Amazing.
OK, come on. So have you signed up for Dancing on Ice?
No, we're going to say it's a no from us.
That is absolutely right. We're doing so well.
Hey!
Everyone's scoring points left, right and centre. OK, so Connor and Anna. Transport for London staff have been told not to use the word accident in case it offends anyone. Instead, workers are being told to use the term collision. They've also banned the phrase ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I can believe that last
Yeah,
bit,
definitely.
absolutely. Because the gender neutral... Wasn't there a train service that got yelled at on Twitter and the customer service had to respond to them because they said, we're offended by the term ladies and gentlemen because I'm a they, them, or whatever it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've adopted that policy. I don't know about... Oh, God,
I don't understand. I don't understand how. Just because you are they, them, or I prefer it.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, I don't understand.
I actually know someone who actually he was a boy who's like he was my best friend at school, but then he went through this big transition. I think it was like lockdown, something. Something happened during lockdown.
He lost it.
He lost it.
Yeah.
Changed his name and identified as an it them.
Well, I'm not shocked because he is a clown.
Was it like a butterfly or something?
But you raise an interesting question, an interesting point here. Is a lot of this the whole fact that we locked kids up during lockdown? I mean, I will say to you, if you're 14 years old, being grounded for a weekend is like the worst punishment ever. We grounded these kids for month after month after month.
Absolutely terrible.
And there's a story that generated from TikTok, I think, generated publicity about, the Jonathan Jolie family. His child, I think 6 years old, was a boy, but then through watching social media, through watching TikToks of other children transitioning, decided that he's now a girl.
It's child abuse.
It's child abuse, and it's 6 years old. And now started a YouTube channel all about the transition. And when I worked at a school, there was a kid in, I think, year 10, 14, had all the surgery from a boy to a girl and had everything done. And I just thought, like, we were told we're not allowed to say anything, we're not allowed to, offend this child.
And we don't want to offend people, but at the same time, this Tavistock clinic, there's now lots of people suing and all this sort of thing. And so it worries me. Look, I've got to say to you, I don't believe in the Lady Gaga-isation, as I think Douglas Murray called it, of society, which is, I was born this way, baby. No. You own your body. You do with it what you will. So if you want to transition into being a man or a woman or anything else, you can do that. My concern is this whole nonsense science which says the reason I'm becoming a woman is because in fact I am a woman. Because what that does is it forgets that there are some people who've got a mental illness, some people, not all, of gender dysmorphia, where what happens is you believe you're in the wrong gender. If you surgically remove your genitals as a solution to that, you will still think you're in the wrong gender.
Yeah, and it's a new Gnostic religion. It basically says, I've got the soul of a woman trapped in a man's body, so I've got to play God with myself. But we're doing a massive disservice to these people who are suffering with mental problems.
I am actually a gay man in a woman's body.
I can tell by the face.
Well, you look a bit like Eddie Izzard, so...
The jokes aside, as you guys mentioned, Tavistock or Stonewall, you've got the actual institutions that we can find a policy to deal with them. But there's another problem. As you guys mentioned, the lockdown days, kids not being able to actually go out there, it's affected their social skills. They also were basically essentially forced to just sit there and watch all this TikTok nonsense. And so there's a wave of brainwashing that's not just Stonewall or Tavistock, it's also basically the invisible hand of society.
All the schools were locked down and none of the students, they weren't socialising, especially for the really young children. They were like born, growing up during lockdown. And and that's a really crucial part of the, a child's development, socialise with other kids. So they rely on, social media, TikTok, the internet for their learning because they're so insulated in their world.
Well, we had a situation with our daughter where they allowed her to continue coming into school, but we didn't want to ask why. So we thought, because either they think we're horrific parents and she's at, massive social service level traumatic risk, or it's because we work in media, but we thought we're not going to actually ask them why, because they're letting her come in every day.
I don't understand. They didn't want your child to come into school?
No, they let her come in the whole time.
Oh, right.
But my ex-husband and I were like, OK, right, so either they think that, she's at risk, which we're hopefully not, or because we work in media, but either way, it's fine, it's fine, let her come in. It's costing us 15 grand a year, let her come in.
I mean, actually, I think you make a reasonable point, and I've found this before today with bureaucracies. Sometimes they just go to you, they go, right, what you've got to do is fill out this form and get it checked over by an inspector, and just go, and that's the end of it. And nobody ever asks you again. So it's like, you can't send your children into school because it's dangerous. Yeah, we'll just ignore that. And
Well, anyway, so Lola went in and it was all good. And I'm very fortunate that because of that, she didn't have any negative impact.
That's fantastic.
But my son did. It did affect him.
To jump on the TikTok point, have you heard of this thing called spoonies, this new trend?
And it's spooning.
No. So basically, there was
something to do with cups and girls.
There's this Tumblr blogger years ago that said, this is an analogy for disabled people, right? Healthy people have unlimited spoons. That's their energy. They can use them through... she was explaining it in like some restaurant or something to her mates. Disabled people have a limited number of spoons. So they've got to conserve their energy. And now these girls are self-identifying as spoonies, taking videos of themselves in hospital beds or just under blankets at home saying, I have this and that illness and doctors aren't listening to me, you're gaslighting me. So now women are feigning illnesses, impressionable young girls, for likes on TikTok. And it's just creating a wave of anxiety and hypochondria.
I was going to say, someone very close to me was when I knew her, and then like during lockdown, she was watching all of this stuff. There's like on Instagram, especially these mental health pages where people will document their mental health journey and say, I haven't self-harmed for 2 days. And like they'll document this, but then like young girls, like as young as 13, 14 will see this and think, is this like, I feel a bit sad. Should I be feeling like this? Yeah. And someone very close to me was watching this and she developed a very severe eating disorder during the lockdown. Yeah, it's very sad. And she completely changed. And she said to me, it was because she was so obsessed with like looking at TikTok, watching like food accounts and the calorie counting.
And a lot of those, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of those people who are on TikTok, who are on social media talking about dieting, a lot of them are in treatment for eating disorders. They just don't admit it.
The misery loves company. That's why.
You know what's interesting? The interesting thing is, right now, it's the liberal left who are pushing, actually, promoting kids to actually watch these TikTok stuff and really learn from these online forums. These are the same people who 10 minutes ago were saying, these white, straight men, like a few years ago, going on these forums and
YouTube.
finding out about extreme views of how to flirt with women or how to become conservative. That's evil. You need to shut it down. But now they're promoting the same online platforms.
But Connor said at the beginning of this that he felt it was about fracturing society. Yep. And my own view on this is, if you are sat round, first of all, with the whole multiculturalism and cultural appropriation at the same time, right? But if you're also saying, well, hang on a second, we want girls to be able to watch all these dieting things, and also you're saying women should have a positive body image. Well, actually, those two things are completely contradictory, and we see time and time again these contradictory concepts.
Because it's nothing to do with anything apart from divide and rule and the whole thing. But Connor, please don't take my ability to fake being ill once a month away from me.
So we've got man flu.
What can we do? I get cups of tea. I get.
Nice.
Don't give her ideas, Lois.
I take this advice.
That's my right as a woman.
When I worked at the House of Commons, we used to have something called ailed and failed, which meant you'd had that much booze the night before you didn't make it into work.
And did that ever happen to you, Andre?
Oh, God bless the public sector. We were an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. I mean, I wouldn't mind. The thing that made me laugh when I worked at the House of Commons, I worked as a researcher, right? Yeah. Now, let me tell you, there's researchers in the library. Also, there's Google. This is just a one thing. All we used to do was get paid about 30 grand a year to swank round the Palace of Westminster, getting drunk and going to free parties. And for those of you that have seen the Palace of Westminster, there's that large terrace. Though in those marquees, there's parties every night. Now, you're supposed to go in via the entrance to go through the guest this. But if you go onto the terrace through the private members bit, and then you can walk around and go in the back door, I will tell you, I went to a free party, at least one free party, every night for about 10 years.
I remember there's a story about Theresa May's researchers and all that, all the MPs under her. They put forward a bill, I think it might have been one of her Brexit drafts, and there was one of the researchers that said, yeah, we were using the parliamentary office, we were using that as the coaster to cut limes on for our morning G&T. It's like, why are we paying these people?
Their morning G&T?
Yes.
Oh.
Have they been to Essex?
Anyway, so back to the question.
Yep.
So Transport for London staff have banned the term accident and ladies and gentlemen. True or false?
Sounds plausible enough, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We'll go with yes.
Go for it.
It is absolutely true and unbelievable. Anyway, I was out and about a couple of weeks ago now, but we're going to rerun it anyway, asking people, what is a woman? Take it away. What is a woman? What is a woman?
I don't know, a nice woman is here, but none of you want a nice, a horrible woman, you know what I mean? What I'm saying, a nice woman is a lady, you know what I'm saying?
I think he's brought real clarity to the subject. Thank you. What is a woman?
A woman, in my description, is a wombed man. Woman, wombed man.
What is a woman?
Sexy.
Kiss the baby, there we go. What is a woman?
Sexy, empowering. Who run the world? Girls.
If you want to like call yourself a woman on Tuesday and a man on Wednesday, like if you want to like go between the two, what, like, it's up to you.
We're talking about chromosomes. I didn't quite hear that. What was that?
Why? X and Y. Well, if X and Y, you know, why? Why am I man? Why am I man? Because you're Y. And why am I X? Because I'm an X.
I think you can be whatever you want to be. If you want to
What if I was to say I want to be a horse? And by the way, believe me, I'm similar. Believe.
Anybody that wants to be a woman can be a woman.
Can I be a woman?
If you wanted to, you can be a woman.
Do I have to shave my back to be a woman?
Absolutely not. I've never shaved my back in my life.
A woman is a strong, independent person.
So I think a woman is somebody who's got and then oh, I'm so sorry. She can't understand. She can't understand. But
what's a man? And a there you go.
I just wonder that people don't know what a woman is anymore.
Well, no, but she obviously needs a womb of some kind, I would have thought.
If I kind of put a frock on now, would I be a woman?
Pretty good looking one, I'd say, yeah.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? This is a woman. This is my wife. This.
Right now, it's like a mental state. Like if you feel like that's what you were born and you're not happy with your body, I think that's what makes you a woman.
What is a woman?
A woman is something. Have no idea.
What is a woman?
I am a woman.
Look, this says sister from Mexico. Do you know what a woman is? If I wore a dress and shaved my back, would that make me a woman?
Well, what do you want to be?
Would you like to touch it?
Tap.
It's a little bit clammy. Now, I can't lie to you, I used to be a member of staff at the House of Commons. I previously worked for Margaret Thatcher, and this is what I'm doing for a living. What is a woman?
A woman? A woman's a female version of us, bro.
Female version of us? Look at that! Is it fair that somebody with a penis and testicles can define as a woman?
Yeah, of course. You can't do what they want, mate. It's 2022. What generation are you living in, my guy?
The one before yours.
Why?
Who do you reckon's bigger?
Me, for sure, bro. Look at that, bro. It's just a bit smoother.
So I'm outside John Keats' house, talking about anatomy, half naked, and I've been told off by an Arsenal fan for being rude to people. How on earth has that ever happened? This is the life that I now lead, thanks to you at talkTV. Right, so the next one is to Connor and to Anna. Fake meat sales are now plunging due to high prices. True or false?
It's not due to high prices. I don't think it's due to high prices. It's due to a general market lack of interest. Because you go into all these places, and not only are there meat shortages, but loads more people are buying meat, particularly because of shows like us that turn around and go, well, maybe it's not that healthy for you to eat crickets
and also it's just not
grass.
that nice.
Yeah, it's vile.
It's just all processed, loads of chemicals, and also like the vegans are not like they're either uber really healthy or just the complete opposite. I just eat loads of crap.
None of them are really healthy. They all look like emaciated. I mean, look at the level of strength for Extinction Rebellion protests. I mean,
very skinny.
Literally anyone can drag them out of the road because they're so frail they might break.
Don't eat any meat. That's why.
The bit I don't understand about all of it is, you know, I think vegetables are great. I think fruit is great. I don't understand the whole concept of liking vegetables, nothing wrong with that, and deciding to make it into something that looks like a beef burger.
Well, there are burgers that they put beetroot juice in so it bleeds when you cut
There's
it.
also a stuff called heme, which tastes of iron, so it's like hemoglobin in blood.
Well, doesn't that defeat the point? Because they're trying to eat something that doesn't emulate an animal, and that's bleeding like it's an animal.
The best thing you can ever do is watch vegans try meat for the first time on YouTube, because they're sitting there and going, "Oh, I can't eat this. It's horrible. It's a baby cow." And they cut into it and go, "It's actually quite delicious."
It's funny. I live in Westminster, and in Covent Garden there's this vegan restaurant.
Yeah,
and the vegan restaurant is near McDonald's and Steak and Co. It's like nice steak.
Yeah.
People coming out of McDonald's come out feeling guilty, like, oh, I'm like very full but guilty. Yeah. People coming out of the steak place is like very happy, satisfied. People coming out of the vegan place, always grumpy, they still hate the world.
Yeah.
They go in hating the world, they come out hating the world.
Don't worry, there's not much chance of them being able to procreate. So.
But it's like whenever I get taken for a Japanese meal, I always go to McDonald's first because you know you're not going to have a good feed.
My mate went to a Michelin-star restaurant. He had like 14 mini courses, probably about 200 cookies, a real foodie. And I said, "Oh, how was it?" And he went, "Well, we went and got a 20-nugget share box afterwards, so, you know, there we go. It's just not filling at all. Give me a kebab instead, thanks."
Yes, absolutely.
Much cheaper.
Absolutely. So anyway, you've correctly identified that sales of fake meat are falling, but you're just trying to work out it's because of high prices.
I don't think it's because of high prices. I think it's a technicality, so we're going to say no.
You are wrong. It is because of high prices.
Hey!
Here we go. You're pulling ahead now. So here we go to Maya.
I'm always pulling ahead, Andre.
Maya and Lois. Snowflake students at the University of Strathclyde have banned Secret Santa this year because it's too traumatic.
Do you know why that's unlikely? Because these woke students, they probably don't have enough friends to even do Secret Santa.
Do you know what? It does sound like a sort of Nicola Sturgeon, mighty midget, as my nan calls her, type thing, doesn't it? I mean, and they're total lightweights, the Scots. I mean, they voted to be dominated.
I
would.
I strongly disagree with that. I think that Scotland used to be an incredibly proud country, and now it's just its whole national spirit appears to be related on to hating the English.
Yeah, but it never used to be like that. And you're absolutely right. When I did philosophy at A-level, our lecturer was Scottish, and he said this whole nationalism thing, this whole thing with the flags, is very new. In the last 20, 30 years.
But you didn't. But the reality is, what annoys me most about Nicola Sturgeon is that she is not a patriot in any meaningful way. What she wants is, she wants to pull out of the United Kingdom so she can more easily capitulate to the European Union.
So she can be part of Europe. So she just does it. She wants to be told told what to do by somebody with a foreign accent.
So that's the thing. Their nationalism is basically just anti-English nationalism. That's what it is. But their nationalism is actually anti-English nationalism. But the reality is,
they hate us.
What's happening in Scotland, this hatred towards the English and all that, is not just on the SNP themselves. This is the wave that's happened over the last few years with ultra-globalism completely undermining national identities and sovereignties, that even like ordinary people in Scotland, apart from the other half, obviously.
Identity, family, everything.
Yeah, they don't really have that Britishness, let alone actual Scottishness. There's the actual ultra-Scottish people. It's not Scottish, it's SNP.
They don't want to burn their own, you're absolutely right.
But can I ask you then, what about the Prime Minister of Italy? I mean, she's been accused of being far right, but she's talked continually about the fact that she wants to return the idea of history, of family, of religion.
I like her rhetoric. I am very tepid to see where she goes because she has in the past endorsed digital IDs.
Yep.
That is a massive gateway to civil rights violations, digital currencies, and more of the global stuff you were talking about. So I'm very tepid. But even if one of our politicians said half of what she had said, I would be much more enthusiastic. The interesting thing you said about Sturgeon not being a patriot but still marketing herself as a nationalist, something that Orwell said in Notes on Nationalism. And he said, Celtic nationalism, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, will end up being just anti-English hatred to identify themselves. And then exactly like all the left-wingers do, he then said, but it's interesting because all these socialists, they claim to be more compassionate, they claim to be more patriotic, but they'd sooner steal from a poor box than sing God Save the King. And we saw that with the Queen's funeral. All the socialists came out crying, especially in Scotland, and thankfully all the English people turned around and went, "Oh, do one for the day, please. We're not having it."
It was so brilliant, the Queen dying in Scotland. Do you know what? Absolutely everything about her reign was pitch perfect. And her making the decision, and I do believe it was a decision of hers, to die in Scotland. So you had the march down and you united the country. Bang on.
But Lois, let me ask you this. Do you think that has changed the feeling in Scotland? Are they more patriotic towards the United Kingdom? I get the feeling that that the Scottish unionists had something to rally around for once.
Absolutely. I think that it made an extraordinary impact. Obviously, the Scots want to, in the immortal words of David Bowie, stay with us. They do want to stay with us, and I respect them for that. And but no, the funeral cortege coming all the way down was absolutely extraordinary.
I think it was even bigger because I think the whole country almost came together because I think we were so divided.
The whole our United Kingdom,
the whole
our island.
Because I think we're so divided with lockdown and everything that's been happening in the political sphere. I think everyone just felt this sadness, like whatever sort of political divide you come from, where you come from. I thought there was this like united country. It was like
definitely not. No, it wasn't united. And the reason is, right, Labour, for example, they can get up at their conference, they can have Union Jacks and sing God Save the King all they like. But what was going on at the same time as the Queen's funeral? The riots in Leicester and the protests about Chris Cable, which Jeremy Corbyn was at. Those are basically those are ethnic conflicts that have been ginned up by activists that are consequences of Labour policy. They were not patriotic, and if the Labour Party want to rebrand themselves in the aftermath of the Queen's death as that, we can tell them where to stick.
The reason Connor's spot on is it hasn't really unified or kind of created more patriotism in Scotland, what happened with the funeral. What actually did, as you said, it kind of rallied the troops for the Unionists who felt, because of the last few years of the SNP reign, that they had to be shut up. They can't say anything, because if they go on the streets, their Scotnass would attack them. So it helped them, rallied the troops. The Unionists were like, OK, for 10 minutes, we can actually fly the flags. But you're right, it didn't really create any sort of unity or like...
But Maya, for decades, there has been nothing for a Scottish unionist to say. They've been abused, they've been shouted at, they've had their history traduced, they've had, in some cases, their windows broken. There's plenty of parts of Scotland where if you were to fly the Union Jack, you would be in real trouble. But then there was something engineered, and I agree with Lois, engineered by the Queen. I mean, she didn't decide to die, but she knew...
No, but even Prince Charles said that my mother should not... It's quite strange. He even said it in an interview that she was in Balmoral at that time. She wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't on the, the agenda.
But what Andrew said is actually spot on, because it's not just, again, the fault of the SNP over the last few years. It's also the fault of the centralised machine, the politicians in Westminster, who've centralised everything into London and Westminster, that nobody did anything to actually, again, re-energise the Welsh or the Scottish. So it had to be the state, it had to be the Queen to actually to die to do it. Like, politicians didn't do it, they failed.
I mean, I have to say, there is something remarkable about the fact that dying in a particular location is an act of unionism.
I know, I love that.
I know, how cool is that? It's just fab.
It's very English, very English.
No, very English.
And so, OK, Snowflake students at the University of Strathclyde have banned Secret Santa presents for being too traumatic.
Again, I think it's unlikely, not just because I don't have friends, but these people don't believe in Christmas. Come on. No, it can't be true.
I think it is. But I have to defer to you as
I'm the team captain, so I'll say it's not true.
It is, in fact, false. Well
done. Well, there you go. I deferred, didn't I? I was
OK, so on to Connor and Anna. You're behind now.
1 point.
Come on. Stiffen the sinews. OK, GCSE exam halls are ditching analogue clocks because children can't tell the time.
I wouldn't be surprised about this, actually. We've just had that conversation about everyone's addicted to their phones. Do you think anyone can tell that?
Well, like, even young children now have their own phones. And, like, there's, like, little children on TikTok now.
Yeah, we are not doing that, I'm telling you now.
All they see is the time, so they wouldn't know how to read an analogue clock.
The amount of babies
like the olden days.
pushed in strollers, facing outwards away from their mums, also with an iPad. Or every time we go out to a restaurant, kids at the table with an iPad just playing.
Just to try and keep them quiet.
Cut and do this.
Give them side eye.
and they just think there's something wrong.
But what about parents who turn around and say, actually, it is stressful bringing up kids, and the television is something that's helpful to us?
OK, so 2 reasons there. 1, all of your ancestors didn't have a TV and they did a perfectly good job of raising them. That's why you're here. Number 2, who would you prefer telling your kids their worldview? You or someone that you aren't supervising? And this is why we're getting so much gender confusion. As Abigail Schreier said in her book, Irreversible Damage, loads of impressionable young girls are going down cult rabbit holes on social media and are being talked into this ideology.
You should be relying on TV or social media to be raising your children. I think that's what it comes down to.
Nanny is what you need.
This reminds me, when I was a kid, and I used to hear stories and like history stuff from my dad and my mum, and I used to go to school, tell other kids, like, this is what I've heard. And my sister is a lot younger than me. She's now 18, 19. A few years ago, and until recently, she used to come home and say, I've learned about history or like BLM on TikTok or from someone at school. She used to then tell our mum.
Yeah.
And like, the roles are reversed. You used to actually get these stories, like the moral stories about life and history from your parents. Now you're getting it from random people.
But in that case, are parents less good than they were before?
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm an amazing parent.
Yeah, but why are parents less good?
Life is more materialistic, commercialized, and careeristic, and everyone's more focused on. It's a social pressure on both male and female humans in the West. It's not just when it comes to like feminism. Even men they're under more pressure to even be more robotically clinical, corporate, and like do this, do that, rather than just spend that Sunday with your family. Do that Sunday barbecue.
It's become
not
such a
that
big
difficult.
issue that on Twitter there was this like trending debate about people declaring, I want to be a mother over having a career. Like that actually became like a trending debate on Twitter.
If a girl wants to do that, then that's fine. Everyone should have the choice to be able to do.
Yeah, but I think you should make that choice, and the reason is it's a long 40 years after 40 without a family. You're expecting someone
is. I
else's...
tell you what, if you start losing your looks, then obviously that's not a thing for me yet. But if you start losing your looks and you've got absolutely nothing, you're just going to
look at Madonna, for example. She looks horrendous. It's because she's trying to cling on to a bit of youth, and
she's
it's because
got kids, though.
Yeah, but do you think any of them really love her?
I'll tell you something.
Oh, that's bloody brutal.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I watched a programme in which Jimmy Carr was giving out advice to people, and he said, think about the number of people who've got straighteners. And he said, the reality is, if you've got curly hair, just go with it, right? Because the thing is, if you're going to be good at something, at least be good at it, rather than trying to change absolutely everything about yourself. And I think that when we live in this media age with all this TikTok, I mean, I've got to say to you, I've got a friend of mine who's very influenced by these so-called influencers, and I've looked at things like I'm very into Freemasonry, and you see all these people pretending to be Freemasons. They're stood outside the building. They're not in the building.
Andre, you're Mason.
I am, yes. And then there's people.
Do the handshake?
I can do the handshake.
Can you do it now?
Well, let's not do it now. But you see these people. You see these people, and walking onto a private jet, and you think it's at an air show. It's not real.
It's performative, exactly, and it skews specifically young girls' self-perceptions. I mean, at one point, Instagram said they were going to have ban filters, and every single influencer had a total meltdown. Or you see those horror stories of all those girls going to Dubai all through lockdown, saying, "Oh, I'm having a great life out here, and I'm free." And then you read some of the stuff they did to get the money to go out there, and you realise you've sold your soul for a performative lifestyle. I never want that for my kids.
No.
Absolutely. Well, look, we are running out of time, but we've just got to check. Have they dumped analogue clocks on the basis that kids can't tell time?
I reckon so.
No, I don't think so.
Which one of us is team captain again?
No.
Rock, paper, scissors.
No, you're on the far right. So yeah.
So wait, what's the question again?
Have they abolished analogue clocks because kids can't tell time?
Absolutely not. No.
You are wrong. So that means that our winners this week are Mahyar Tousi and Lois.
You are sleeping on the sofa tonight.
Okay.
It's descended into chaos in the studio. They've clearly took it far more seriously than perhaps they should have. But anyway,
We are our winners.
thank you so much to Connor Tomlinson and Anna McGovern. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back next week with more of the wokest stories. Until then, goodbye. Would you be willing to go vegan to save the planet?
Not at all.
Why not?
Because I love me steak, I love me burgers, me chicken, me sausages, me pork chops, me bacon.
Do you not find that vegan food's a bit rubbish?
No.
Yeah.
Depends on what.
Vegan food's rubbish?
Yeah.
Does it also cause a problem with flatulence?
Oh God, yeah, ask him. Stink.
really
Sorry.
does.
I quite like Linda McCartney sausages if you wrap them in bacon.
I'm sure. I've never tried them myself. I'll take your word for it.
Would you go vegan to save the planet?
No,
Is it because vegan food's crap?
not necessarily, but I'm allergic to mushrooms.
You're looking good for 64.
Thank you.
Do you think that's all the meat eating? It's kept you healthy?
No, probably not. Because I've had a heart bypass and I've got diabetes, so probably not, no.
Isn't there an argument, though, for continuing to eat meat just to offend Greta Thunberg?
How dare you?
I always like white bait because it's the maximum number of kills per plate.
No, whitebait. You can't eat heads.
All this talk of veganism has made me hungry. There's a lot of people now talking about eating bugs as your source of protein. It's not something I'd do. Is it something you'd do?
Not unless I was on a plane crash out in the wilderness somewhere, maybe.
I want to interview you now.
Go for it.
What do you think of global warming?
I think that the Earth warms and cools itself in a natural rate. We should be anti-pollution, but we shouldn't get too over the top. And I think there is a degree of hysteria, which is similar to the Luddites in the Victorian period.
So,
Now, in the halls of residence, is vegan flatulence a problem? In my day, they used to burn joss sticks to get rid of the smell of cannabis. Nowadays, I'm convinced it's the personal hygiene of Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, probably is that, to be honest.
Are you concerned that vegans will put you out of business as a fish seller?
No.
I think actually sometimes we need to be less shrill in the media and panic much less. I think I've just pulled a muscle. Can you give me a massage? There we go. What do you think of that? Manly. Oh, don't go higher. Don't go higher. As far as I'm concerned, the most important thing that every animal needs is a proper burial. And believe me, later tonight in the toilet, he's gonna get one, baby.
Sorry, I know I speak English. We come from Germany.
Oh, we love Deutschland. Viva la Deutschland. That's not German, is it? Ich bin ein Television.
Yes.
Veganism.
I see it, yes.
Helmut Kohl.
What?
Helmut Kohl.
I know understand.
Angela Merkel. This is my only German. Go on, have a chip. Have a chip. This is the taste of freedom. Here we go. Well done. I'll have a chip as well.
Oh, nice.
Would you go vegan to save the planet?
Yeah.
this has got to be popular.
Well, I'm fairly popular, but they're thinking of getting rid of me.
No, I wouldn't. I think you're doing an awesome job.
Yeah, but you don't know what this interview's supposed to be about.
I have no idea.
Neither do I.
We love talkTV!
See, they're voting for us. They love us. They want to stay with us. This is talkTV. Yeah, baby.